Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So in today's video, we will be briefly talking about the past snowstorm that occurred across the United States. Obviously dropped very heavy snow amounts across certain locations. It underperformed in a few spots and it significantly overperformed in also a few spots. So we will be going over that quickly, but mainly we will be focusing on the threat for renewed snow across one storm, the south, into North Carolina, into southern Virginia, and also into Tennessee, Kentucky, and then another system into this weekend across the Midwest again. So if you guys enjoy these type of videos, consider subscribing, and liking the video also helps out a ton, so consider doing that. If you have any comments, obviously leave them down below. Regardless, thank you so much, and let's get on with this. Alright, so let's begin by looking at southern Wisconsin. This is one area of the storm system that just absolutely overperformed. If you recall, a few days prior to this system, even honestly yesterday, when the system was already occurring across Iowa, into Illinois, I was saying that the potential for this to take a unexpected turn is possible. Again, it shouldn't be, derailing the whole forecast, but certain locations may get heavier snow. And I was saying that Wisconsin may be one of those, and it did, but it went way more extreme on the snow than I thought it would be. So again, I said that, maybe Madison, even further up north, it could be up to 6 inches. The National Weather Service was calling from 4 to 6, so lower than that. Notice that a lot of these amounts were above 6 inches. In fact, some approaching the 8s, if not higher amounts. Notice near Milwaukee, right south of Milwaukee. Northern Illinois, here personally, I got around 6.2 to 3 inches of snow, so it was a relatively good event. Notice that into Iowa, definitely heavy amounts of snow. Again, if you recall, some of the models were indicating towards 25 inches. None of that happened, and as I was saying, that possibly up to some 16-inch amounts are likely, and you could see we got pretty darn close to that. Notice that it is a pretty nice swath of snow, right? It did kind of peter out across southern Michigan. That's one area where it underperformed quite significantly. Notice a sharp cutoff here that is pretty much as expected it was with this system, and it was a bit further to the north than expected, this cutoff, but I was mentioning in yesterday's video that this cutoff will be sharp, but it could fall to the south or to the north, and it took a more northward path, obviously, as the snow extended over here. Notice that we see, again, rather decent amounts a bit further to the north in Michigan as well. In terms of upstate New York, you can see Albany got around 3.8, right? So we did get relatively good amounts of snow. I do not know how much Canada got out of this. I do not have snowfall reports. I imagine they did end up seeing at least some snowfall amounts. Notice the DC area did get some snow. You see that 25-inch report. That is an error. I almost guarantee you someone tried putting in 2.5 and forgot the decimal. So that is that. The highest amount from this storm system is at 15.8 in Nebraska. All right. Let's start talking about this upcoming potential system. So let's go to the GFS model on Tropical Tidbits and take a look at its most recent model run. Notice right now we have, again, that system still occurring across southern Canada and into the northeast, New York, Massachusetts, Vermont, New Hampshire. Not a significant system. I should say not a huge system, as it is rather significant in some areas that saw, 6 to potentially higher amounts across upstate New York. Notice lake effect will still continue across Michigan into Illinois and Indiana, so that's definitely something to keep an eye out for. While it shouldn't be widespread, it could briefly drop visibilities down abruptly, and if they continue for a while, it could bring an inch or 2 of snow. Notice that what we have is a low pressure, right, that actually came onto the coast of California and Oregon and Washington rather impressively. It was a pretty strong system. It has petered out. It is snowing across Arizona, New Mexico, and into Colorado. But notice that it does spill into Kansas, but it's really moisture-starved, not much. Notice the lake effect does form onto Illinois into tomorrow in the afternoon. Again, that may be significantly more or significantly less than, say 2 to 3 inches, which is what the National Weather Service is going with. Lake effect is very hard to predict. Obviously, that's also extending by Lake Superior. This lake effect. Notice, this is what happens. Look at that. Central Missouri ends up seeing some snow. I would not be surprised, to 4 locations to see 2 to potentially 3 inches, and you may be disappointed by those amounts, but let me tell you, I haven't had a 6+ inch event in a while, and I forgot, honestly, how much 6 inches of snow is. I looked outside today, and I could have sworn it was a foot of snow. But again, it was just under 6, and then it fell up to around 6.3 throughout the day. So 3 inches most definitely would not be a disappointment for southern Missouri with the system. Again, that probably will be on the higher end of things. Notice it spreads into Indiana, Kentucky, Western Kentucky, Western Tennessee, potentially mixing in with some rain. Notice what this does. This GFS, and now a lot of the kind of models are doing a similar thing. It takes it into North Carolina, this heavy snow. So this is 6 p.m. tomorrow, and look at this, what happens at midnight. Right in the mountains, 100% snow. West Virginia, Virginia, North Carolina, into Kentucky, seeing pretty good amounts of snow. Again, potentially extending into Columbus, maybe southern Indiana, but again, probably under an inch. Look what we have. We have a large system, right, developing, and earlier on in the week, last week, it was thought of, being a beast, a significant storm. At this point, again, things have kind of petered out, and there was initially some excitement, but unfortunately that has dwindled as the models have, kind of resolved that this wouldn't be as big of a storm as they previously thought, or at least near the coast where it could affect folks. It will be pretty strong. You can see 980, that's a beast, but it develops just a bit too far out. But the GFS and GFS parallel and several other models still ring out a lot of snow out of this. Look at this. North Carolina, right? Notice into Virginia, maybe even getting towards the coastal areas of North Carolina. Extreme northern South Carolina, potentially seeing some snow. Again, that doesn't seem too likely, as probably this rain snow line is going to be pretty hard to bring further to the south. Notice that this does push off, and a bit of ocean effect is possible into Massachusetts and coastal areas of New Hampshire and Maine. And you can see right there, if you're out in the ocean, you could actually pick up quite a bit of snow from that. Obviously no one is, but if there was a city in the ocean, that would be several inches of snow right there, but it just misses the coast, it seems, at this point. Let's take a look at the total snowfall from this event. Notice that across Kansas, Missouri, Illinois, western Kentucky, southern Indiana, 1 to potentially 3 inches is possible. As we get towards Carolina and to southern Virginia, we get amounts reaching well over 6 inches in the higher elevated areas, but even the coastal areas may pick up on a few inches of snow, so that's definitely something to keep an eye on for. Notice additional amounts into southern New York, southern Canada, I meant to say, and then into New York, Massachusetts, Connecticut. Could be averaging around 3 to 4 inches. And that's what the GFS predicts. That's what thinks it will happen. Let's take a look at the Canadian. This is what the Canadian puts out. Notice it puts out a bit more across Missouri, Illinois, right? Generally the same, similar timeline. However, it does not show as much across the coastal areas. It does show a 1 to 3 to potentially 4 inch event, right? But it's definitely on the lighter side of things, and we'll just have to wait and see. This was a bit of an older model run, as this came out at noon versus the GFS I'm showing you came out just an hour ago. Right, her model, most long-range model version of the her. You can see it continues showing snow across, Massachusetts. A lot of that did fall already, as this is a couple hours old. But notice that it does bring snow, even decent amounts into St. Louis, southern Illinois, picking up 2 to 3 inches, I wouldn't say is out of the question. And it does go as far to show decent amounts across North Carolina and southern Virginia, potentially approaching 3 to 4 inches, which would again be a nice event. 3 to 4 inches is something anyone would take if you're a snow lover. It's not as small as it seems. All right, it's definitely, if that were to accumulate on a pavement, that would definitely be beyond shovelable snow. All right, that's the her model. The NAM family doesn't advertise a heavy system for the coastal areas, or relatively heavy, 6 inches, anywhere like that. It shows heavier amounts into Missouri, Illinois, pretty much consistent with other models, but it doesn't advertise heavy snow here, which I think is a bit of a underestimate. If I were to choose a model right now, I would probably lean with a GFS, or maybe even something like this. A pocket of snow appears likely in North Carolina, Virginia. Exact details, please refer to the National Weather Service, as they will have the best information on this. Notice that Kentucky, Indiana, again, picking up 2 to 3 inches into Kansas and Colorado. Now, let's take a look at a few more models with this system. GFS parallel, I want to show you. This is one of the models that keeps the system very intense, right? So, look. Snow across Missouri into Tennessee, Kentucky. Look at that. Now into eastern Kentucky, eastern Tennessee. Look at that. Very, very, potentially very heavy snowfall rates into tomorrow in the night across much of Virginia, Southern Virginia, Northern North Carolina, West Virginia. Sorry about that. Tennessee, maybe extreme northern Georgia, most likely not though. Getting in on that snow. And notice it pulls off pretty quickly. Not before leaving a rather decent snow footprint according to the GFS parallel, which is the model I'm showing you right now. Let's take a look at this and notice that if we put this further out, we would see generally consistent with what other models are showing, maybe a bit lighter amounts. Notice increasing it quite rapidly into Kentucky and Tennessee, and look at that into Virginia, North Carolina. It shows a lot for sure. I don't think there will be that much. I think that it will be already. I think there will be already a lot if it was 4 plus. Some of these 4 inches plus. And this model advertises close to a foot of snow in some locations, which maybe in the upper elevations is possible, not in the low-lying areas where typically it's warmer. Notice that it does still show a decent amounts for the Northeast, possible across Connecticut, southern New York, and that is something that has to be monitored still. Right, so decent snow potentially. Now, let's take a glance at this GFS. So we looked at the GFS parallel European model. Taking a glance at this, what we notice is this is from noon, so a bit older information. Notice it shows a bit more into southern Canada. Again, most of that has fallen, but it still does show snow into southern New York, Connecticut, Rhode Island, and if we push this into the southeast, the snowstorm, right, you can see it does not really show much. It does show snow across Missouri, Kansas, a little lighter, and it does show some snow near Carolina, North Carolina, but again, it's definitely on the lighter side of things. So again, you can see these models are differing quite a bit. We will just have to see which one is right at this point. I am probably leaning towards a more moderate scenario of probably 4 to 5 inches across northern North Carolina, 2 to 3 across Kentucky, Tennessee, and much of Missouri, Illinois. I should say eastern Missouri, especially the southeastern area. And as for winter weather watches or advisories from the National Weather Service, there are winter weather advisories, as the last time I checked, across Kansas and Oklahoma. And they did add a few advisories into northern Kansas, into extreme southern Indiana, right there, southeastern Indiana, into much of central, eastern Kentucky. Notice advisories are still up for the northeast, and just to show you how much snow potentially could still fall, let's take a look at the capital of New York, Albany. Notice 1 to 3 tonight, and then on and off showers could bring another inch potentially tomorrow into tomorrow night. Not a bad event, not historic or significant, especially for those locations, but definitely a travel problem maker. Alright, so for Kansas City, there is a winter weather advisory. Notice 2 to 3, 1 to 2 inches, right? They are generally light and shouldn't be significant, but again, 3 inches, 4 inches is not as little as it seems. Notice that into northern Arkansas, there are some advisories, and you can see up to 1 inch across Hardy, Jonesboro, Little Rock, probably not seeing much, maybe a few flakes, I would assume. Now into eastern Kentucky, what we see is, let's just click on Lexington, a larger city in Kentucky, and forecast snowfall is less than half an inch, and then tomorrow around 1 inch probably. And here's a map that shows us the actual graphics, and notice this is what they show. I would not be surprised to see these amounts a bit higher, maybe approaching the 3 inch mark across some and into the 4 inch range. There are some winter storm watches across a few counties in the mountains. As of North Carolina, what they have to say, I'm assuming their confidence is pretty low, so they do not have, they're just giving out snow forecast. Let's just take a look at Central Carolina. They definitely mentioned a chance of it, and they're not specifying really amounts that are anything significant. But again, that could change, as this is still a few tens of hours. It's a few 30, 40 hours away, in other words, right? Notice we do have wind chill advisories to the north, as some very chilly air could be coming down. And we have another system making its way onto the coast, which brings me to, briefly, I want to talk about this second system. I do apologize, that was my chair. Notice that as we push this forward, what we see is snow blossoming at around a Saturday, Sunday time frame. This is accumulated snow, not the radar, but I mean, you could assume where the snow would be falling based on accumulations, right? And notice what it shows. First wave of this second system could be dropping snow anywhere from, I would say, South Dakota, really, even further over here, all the way potentially into more of southern Missouri. Again, the track, you see this right here, that's not pinpointed at all. This could change 100 times. Chicago potentially picking up on some snowfall into portions of maybe Michigan, Indiana if it takes a more northward track. Maybe a bit south into Illinois and Indiana, further south in Indiana if this takes a more southern track. And look what it does for the Northeast. It does definitely show an interesting scenario, potentially quite a significant amounts across Virginia. Definitely an exciting thing. New York and into Massachusetts. Notice it does show relative excitement. And then notice, the pattern remains active to say the least. I just want to quickly show you what the European shows out of the system and why the system is so weird. And it will be kind of fun to predict, if you will. This snowstorm. Notice we have that first system right that we talked about. European keeps it on a weaker side. Notice there, look at that. It comes out relatively strong already. 997 millibars of low pressure, pretty strong winds, and notice it just blows up an area of snow across Missouri, Iowa, Illinois, just northeast of Kansas. And notice this kind of continues spreading, but it stalls out and starts sliding to the south end. To the south and east into portions of Kentucky, the actual low pressure. Snow continuing across even North Carolina at points right there into Virginia, West Virginia, Southern Ohio. Again, this could be more significant or way less significant than what the European is showing right here. Notice it does show this intensification of a pretty strong system. In case you're wondering what other models are showing, the European is definitely not an outlier. A lot of models are showing a scenario that would bring pretty good amounts of snow into the Northeast. Obviously, they all vary in timing, track, and intensity, but it's not an outlier, and it's definitely a real possibility, especially since it's not that far out. It's around 160, 170 hours out. Notice I do want to demonstrate the European keeps things active with another potential significant system following that just a few days later. One model that actually shows a ton of exciting storm systems and weather is a GFS parallel. Now this model tends to do this kind of stuff. It does show some extreme systems, but it has done a relatively good job with our past system, and I think it's still better than the GFS. For example, the model that did the best job with this storm that just passed was still probably the European and the GFS parallel, while the Canadian and say GFS operational struggled a bit more than usual. Notice that just for reference here, the European and GFS parallel did not do a overall good job. I would say it was moderate, if not a bit poor, in the sense that, say, southern Wisconsin got way more snow than they expected. Portions of Michigan got a bit, quite a bit less. Did a very good job across Nebraska and Iowa and Kansas. Just a bit further to the east, things got a bit more inaccurate. Notice, this is what the GFS parallel shows. Again, one of these models, the parallel, shows an exciting scenario here. So, whether or not this is an exciting scenario, and actually, if it does hold true, we could further, again, give the GFS parallel more credit. But we'll have to see. I'm looking at this, and I think they're definitely overhyping it a bit with this model, the GFS parallel. I think that over 10 inches will be hard to find versus what this model shows widespread. Right? Notice that pushes off a bit of ocean effect, lake effect into upstate New York. Notice what we start seeing is, again, this low pressure sneaks onto the coast. More rain, more snow for the southwest, and look, boom, lots of rain, lots of snow, heavy snow potentially for Chicago, Milwaukee, southern Michigan into Iowa, maybe Minnesota. Again, this track will shift and change. This is still over 100 hours out, which isn't far out enough to say, screw this, let's see what happens. But, where we could start making forecasts generally. Midwest, but, whether Minneapolis will see very heavy snow, and maybe further up north they won't, or maybe further to the south they could see some snow if this takes a further track. Those questions remain unanswered. And notice that as this pushes into the northeast, it shows a lot of snow, a thud of snow, if you will, even into the mid-Atlantic, and initially it doesn't look like much of a system starts developing. Look at this. We start seeing a beast develop across the northeast, again dumping snow, transitioning that over to rain, and it kind of lingers into southern Canada as well. So again, if this takes an even more northward track, we could see heavier snow into Canada. Notice, this is the model that keeps things very interesting. Look at that. Again, this storm is still across eastern Canada, when we have another system come out that is relatively similar in nature, further to the north according to this model. And then notice we see a very large system, heavy snow, heavy rain, ice, severe weather. Again, we're getting to that time of the year where severe weather is most definitely going to be in almost every single storm system a threat. And again, just storm after storm, if you will, right? a wave after wave, but of storm systems. And notice that this is what it shows. Again, aggressive scenario towards the south. That weekend system, you can see decent amounts across much of the the Rust Belt area, if you will, and extending into the Northeast and the Midwest on both sides. And notice that as we push further and further, these snow amounts add on, and not just for the Midwest, but look at that, portions of North Dakota, South Dakota, and it's not to say that a storm system could develop that tracks further into Kansas, Missouri, Illinois. Chances are there. Again, at this point, this is what this model shows. High amounts for certain cities, but again, that's still could be changed really quickly. Alright, thank you guys so much for watching. I do want to say, if you're still watching this, thank you so much. You are amazing. And I do want to show you guys that regarding late season snowstorms, there have been a lot in the past, and there have been kind of an increasing amount in the last 10 to 20 years of these big storm systems. And I just want to say, a lot of folks, late January, across the south, they may think it's over. Maybe across the south, but further to the north, winter has, at least in my opinion, 2 to 3 months left. I would say 3. Notice some of the largest systems occurred in April. See, look at this, April 8th through 10th, 1973, Iowa blizzard. And this is one of the worst blizzards in record in Iowa, let alone, in April. And you can see that's 20 inches, 19.8. I'm sure there were worse blizzards, say, in January or December, but for April, this was nonetheless impressive. And I'll show you another system. Look at all these systems that hit Albany, New York, the Northeast. A lot of them were in the winter, but look, there was several of them that were March, February, mid-February, towards the latter part of winter. Look at that, May 10th. That is extremely late, right? Again, a more decent winter time frame. A bit later in the year again, decent winter, right? And then we do have more systems that were a bit, still 6th, 7th. We haven't gotten past that point. April 6th, 7th. You can see a lot of these blizzards and storm systems were obviously from this time frame. And of course, the superstorm, the storm of the century, March 13th, 14th. What preceded that was warm air. What followed that was warm air, but the system still managed to produce snow across much of the East Coast, and that's why it was impressive. And I do want to show right there, I mean, look at this. This thing was unpredicted, really, at least to the intensity it occurred. And a lot of these locations, again, saw very copious amounts of snow well into Florida. So, we're far from over with winter. April 8th through 10th, I already showed you that blizzard. I showed you these events. These are biggest snowstorms for, I think just in general, the Northeast. You could see 1997, April Fool's blizzard, another decent event. And of course, the most recent, 2 years ago, the bomb cyclone, Colorado bomb cyclone, that just dropped tons of snow. And officially one of the strongest storms, I think, on record for this area. I think for Colorado, the strongest storm. In terms of intensity. So that is basically it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you all guys on the next episode. See ya. Bye.